Friends, welcome to vesnasstv DIY. I'm Vesna, and today's video is a mega video with all of my best Christmas DIYs of 2021. So let's get going because it is a long one. Thank you. For the very first sign, I'm using this round piece of plywood that my husband cut from scrap plywood. Now, if you don't have access to that, sometimes on Marketplace you can find these wood rounds, but if not, you can always use a pizza pan from the Dollar Tree. And I'm spray painting it in the trim clad flat white. So I've been kind of playing around with purchasing different designs, and Creative Fabrica actually reached out to me to see if I wanted to collaborate, and of course I said yes after I looked at their website. I hadn't heard of them before, but they have tons and tons of amazing graphics, and they have a subscription, and I've got an offer for you for the subscription for $1 for their all access subscription for a month. So if you want to give it a try and take a look at it, it's linked in my description below. They have tons and tons and tons of graphics. It's and fonts and designs and all sorts of things. It's pretty amazing. So check it out. And they do even have some freebies. So make sure you click that link below and check them out. So what I did was I used this Merry Christmas design, and I had an idea to use plaid for the bottom of my sign, and this was great because it was already made into a round design for a round sign. So what I did was I hid the plaid part, so I didn't cut that part out. I just cut out the Merry Christmas so that I could use that because I wanted to use my Dollar Tree fabric. You can totally use that plaid design and make it yourself. So I've seen lots of people do this like freehand, and this is already done for you, and your Cricut can do that for you. So it's really cool. And so I cut out the Merry Christmas. Now I accidentally ripped one of the R's, so I just went back and I used an Easy November font to just add in the R. It doesn't match up 100%, but it's pretty close. So then I weeded everything out. Now when I wanted to use black vinyl instead of, usually when I do these things I always like paint it in, but for this one I wanted to actually use the vinyl, and I had Cricut vinyl on hand, so I had used Cricut vinyl this time. Sometimes I use Dollar Tree and sometimes I use just like a whatever brand off of Amazon, but this time I used Cricut and it worked pretty well except for that R that I ripped off. And when you're transferring any kind of design, you make sure that you use transfer paper, or in my case, what I used was Dollar Tree shelf liner, just the clear one. And what I do is I kind of just put it on my shirt a little bit so it's not so sticky because I don't want it to rip the paint off or anything like that. And once you do that, then your design is ready to be applied anywhere. So I have this fabric from the Dollar Tree leftover from last year, and it's quite wrinkled. So I'm going to have to steam it. And I'm featuring another thing in this video. Normally I don't do so many things, but I just happened to get the steamer from High Life, and they sent it over for me to try out. So I thought I'd try it out in this video. And I'm going to use it to steam this fabric because it had been at the bottom of my closet, like wrinkled up. I forgot that I even had it. I thought I had more pieces because I used it earlier this season, but I don't know what I did with that piece. But then I found this piece, but then I had to steam it. So anyway, all I'm doing is I'm measuring out how many squares I want at the top and how many I want at the bottom, making sure it's enough. And I'm just using a pencil to put kind of where I want to cut it, just so that way I have enough fabric, as I said. And I'll just show you how I use the steamer. It's a really cute little steamer and really easy to use and very light, which is great for people who have hurt themselves like me and need something light in their hands. If you're interested in checking out what the steamer is all about, I will have a link to the Amazon page below, so just check it out. And it's really easy to use, so you just fill up the water, make sure you fill it up to the max, not more, And I did a little bit less just so it wouldn't like bubble over too much. When you're using it, make sure you don't tilt it. I tilted it at first. I don't know why I tilted it and expected a different result, but make sure you don't tilt it. And the best way to do it is to kind of have it hanging off of something and like with a back. So what I did is I did it on my shower. I hung it off of a hanger, and then it had the glass in the back so I could kind of properly steam it. If you're doing a like a shirt or something like that, it'll be much easier because it'll be bigger and you don't need a back, but that's what I did here because I was steaming a little thing. So I'm pretty impressed. It's quite small and it did a really good job steaming this fabric, and I did both sides, so you can just kind of, I'll show you a little bit how wrinkled it was and how good of a job it did steaming everything. I was like I said, pretty impressed. If you are interested in checking this out, again, I'll have that link, and I do have a 15% off code, so if you just use that link, it will work for you, so that's kind of neat. And it's very inexpensive. It's under $30, so really affordable. If you're looking for a handheld steamer, this is a good option. So moving on, after I steam this, I'm going to be putting it onto my sign. But before I do that, I want to kind of measure out where I want this Merry Christmas, and then I'll wrap the fabric around after. So I've measured out the middle and then kind of where the middle is, and then how big my letters are, and then where I want to position the highest letter. So I just marked it off. This you'll have to kind of do on your own. It just depends on how big your round is. So what I did, even when I should go back to when I was creating the design. What I did was I measured out how big my circle was, and it was 15 inches. And that's the kind of circle that I made on Cricut. And the great thing with that design was because it was already made for a circle sign, you just had to make that circle the size of your sign. So really easy to do it that way. That's why sometimes it's nice to purchase these SVGs that are already created, because someone's done the work for you. Unless you're really good at graphics, it's like very time consuming, and then it's trial and error. And this was so easy. So again, I positioned it then in the where I wanted it to be on my wood round. So, and I kind of I eyeballed it to be kind of in the middle. So the words were, I believe, 4 inches. So I kind of did like 2 and 2. So this is kind of something that you'll have to do depending on how big you do everything and what design you wind up using. I will link this design in the description below if you decide to use it. And you know that my wood round is 15 inches, so you can take it from there. But anyway, so I put it on this wood round and then I put the fabric on. So I use that little mark that I made with a pencil as my guide to which squares I have to cut off, and I just use a fabric cutting tool. And then I do it for both sides, and then I fold it down one set of squares and hot glue it so that way it gives a more smooth looking edge. And then I just use a hand staple gun to staple the fabric to the back. And the reason I'm not hot gluing it is because it will be on my door, probably my outside door, or I might hang it up inside, but I want to have the option for both. And sometimes hot glue, with the changes in weather, it kind of doesn't last forever. So I thought if I reinforce it with the staples, it will stay for a good amount of time. And then the only thing I wind up hot gluing is a bow, and I'm okay if the bow falls off because I can always remake a bow. So I add the fabric to the top and bottom, and then I create a bow. I did not show you me creating the bow and actually even adding the fabric to the top because it's the same thing. You don't need to watch me do it twice. The video is going to be too long if we do that. But the bow, I just used Dollar Tree ribbon and I just made loops that I twirled around each other, and then I hot glued the bow to the top of the sign. The reason I'm not showing you how I did the bow is because I stink at making bows. So it's not a fun tutorial to watch me do a bow. It never I feel like I just don't do you any favors by showing that to you. So I'll show you the finished bow. And then I just added these little sticks from the Dollar Tree just in there, and I kind of poke them through. And then I added a little bell. The bell is just, it's actually from like it's from our wedding, but you can still get these in the wedding section. And I just kind of put it in there, and I figured if I do wind up using it on the door, it'll ding every time you open it. And then I hot glue that, and then I'm going to add some jute rope to the back here so that way you can hang it, and I'll hot glue that as well, and then I'll reinforce it with a staple. So there you can see I've done that, and that's all there is to it. I think it's gorgeous. Let me know what you think. This is my favorite sign out of all three. I love it. For the second sign, I'm creating a candy cane lane sign, and I'm just using a scrap piece of cedar board from which is left over, no, not cedar board, I'm lying, pressure treated board, which is left over from a project in the backyard, and the piece is 24 inches long. And again, I've used another design from Creative Fabrica, which I'll link below as well. And I am weeding it right now. I'll speed through this, but same idea. This time I'm going to be painting in the letters, so I used, this is a shelf liner as well. No, this is a vinyl. This is a vinyl that I used for my stencil. Again, you could use shelf liner. I really like this, and it was a big roll that I got off of Amazon 2 years ago almost now, and it's lasted me forever. So I'm weeding this out, and I will be painting it red for Candy Cane Lane. This sign will be going outside, so I will spray protect it as well. I won't show you that. You don't have to do that. I'm just going to use a clear spray for the outside because I want to hang it up. We have a row of candy canes going up to our front door, and then beside one of the row of candy canes, I have like a little post where I hang plants, and I would like to hang this on there. Now, I'm not going to show you which things I'm using for the hooks because that will be my husband's job to figure out. I create these things and he has to figure out how to hang them sometimes, especially when it's outside, because sometimes things have to be done differently. The inside I always do, but for the outside, that's his job. And I'm using this holiday red paint from the Dollar Tree. It's just an acrylic paint, and I'm going to be dabbing it with my little stenciling brush from the Dollar Tree. Once the sign is dry, I do a second coat, and this is what it looks like after 2 coats. And then I go ahead and I just dry brush a little bit of white. I thought about painting this white, but because it's going to be outside and it'll get snowed and rained on, I thought the paint might chip. So this way, if I just dry brush a little bit of white, it'll give that effect and that kind of aged look as it is with the wood, and the wood will gray on its own. So this should look okay. But I really like, this is so cute. It's super, super cute. And my little guy was watching me do it, and he was very excited that there were candy canes on here. He's all about the candy canes. And for the white, I'm just using the Deco Art chalk paint. So here's the finished piece. Let me know what you think. I will likely have a picture of it on my Instagram. Posted the picture of it in my garden, posted on my Instagram. My goodness, I can't even talk. It's late at night, so I should go to bed. I'm using the bamboo cutting board from the Dollar Tree, and I am spray painting it with the Rust-Oleum Colonial Red spray paint. I also love these spray paints as well, but they're a little bit more pricier than the other one. And I spray paint it once, and then again I'm using another design from Creative Fabrica, and I've cut it out with my Cricut again on that stenciling vinyl. And I am just again using my shelf liner as transfer paper, and I'm going to dab it with some of that white Deco Art chalk paint. Now I just want you to look at my table. My table is a mess because I'm also creating another video for Tuesday, so the stuff from that video is there. I start off with a really nice clean working space, and by the time I'm done my crafting, it looks like a disaster because I don't put it away right away because I'm using everything, and then 99% of the time I'm in a rush because the kids need me or something for work or dinner or whichever. I've gotten out of the habit. We have soccer now in the mornings on the weekends, so I'm kind of with one, either with one child at soccer or with the other child at home. So I'm not doing my crafting like I was in the summer, where I just kind of went and I did it in the morning or while they were sleeping. Now it's all kind of thrown off. So anyway, I'm dabbing using that stenciling brush again to apply the paint. Actually, sorry, for this one I'm not using my stenciling brush. I'm just using one of these little foam dabbers from the Dollar Tree, and I'm dabbing on the paint. And whenever you're doing these signs, I don't think I mentioned it in the other one, you want to kind of wipe off the excess paint so you're not caking on too much. You're better off doing 2 coats than putting too much paint on at once. So I did 2 coats of the white paint, and then I dry brushed white around this as well, and a little bit more on the edges, and then all over top. And I wanted it to kind of look like it was almost like sugary, powdered sugary, I guess, or whatever you want to say, and a little bit aged. I always like everything to be a little bit aged. So this is what I'm showing you right here. And I love the way this turned out. So here's the finished piece. Let me know what you think. So I am in love with the Dollar Tree palettes that I have seen many different creators use, and even on Instagram and Facebook, and I have not been able to find them. So I'm creating my own using 21 popsicle sticks, and I start off by just arranging them to the way that I would like the palette to look like. This is kind of up to you how big you want it to be. I thought 4 sticks out and then 8 sticks down would be big enough. And then once I arrange and see how far I want them to be, then I go ahead and I add the hot glue, and I just attach everything with the hot glue, and then I give them a little bit of height. I give the palette a little bit of height by adding another 3 popsicle sticks on each side from the bottom. And that's it for the palette. And then I use my Rust-Oleum decorative glaze in the Java brown, and I just stain this. I just use an old rag to do it, and I love using this glaze as a stain. It works really, really well. So after the stain sets, I thought I was going to use my Cricut to cut out the word joy using red vinyl, but then once I put that on, I didn't like the way that looked, so I decided to use some red burlap, which I also got at the Dollar Tree. They have these burlap ribbons available now, and they're really, really cute because they have them in orange and brown and red. So I used the red burlap, and I cut out just a piece that was wide enough for the entire palette. I wound up cutting another piece of the burlap just because I saw a little bit of the brown showing through on the burlap, and I wanted it to be a little bit darker, so I just put 2 pieces of burlap. You don't have to, I just like the way it looked better. And I hot glued that on, and then I cut out jute rope and I made the word joy out of the jute rope, and I attached a little hook on using jute rope onto the top of the pallet, so it kind of looks like it could be hanging somewhere or whichever. And that is it. Minimal materials, very cute, and has that rustic Christmas feel that I really like. So if you guys thought this DIY was easy, the next one is even easier. So the next one, you're gonna need about 7 popsicle sticks, and then you're going to make a Santa ladder, which is super easy. Just use these popsicle sticks. You're gonna need a little bit of holiday red paint from the Dollar Tree, as well as this little garland. Now this is the only thing that I'm not sure that you can find now, but you can find something similar that has like little berries so you can wrap it around. I'm sure of it. I just had this on hand from last year, and I will pick some more up this year because I really like to use them in like little bits of decor here and there. But that's all you need for this one. Just look how cute it is. That's what it's gonna look like. Easy. So all I'm doing is hot gluing the ladder after I painted. So first you paint it in the holiday red, you do both sides, let it dry, then you hot glue it all together, and that is it. The only few things that you have to remember is that you don't want to use too much hot glue so that it doesn't kind of spill all over. And when you're hot gluing, you want to put them one on top of the other. And then you also want to kind of, when you do the middle part, you want to have it go in an open triangle, so that way it's not a straight up ladder. If that's what the look you're going for, that was the look that I was going for. You're going to wrap that garland around, maybe hot glue it in a few spots if you want to, or if you want to be able to use this for maybe the fall, you don't even have to wrap the garland around, glue it around. You just wrap it around, and that's it. And here's the finished piece. Few more DIYs to go. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Take a stretch a little bit while I'm talking here, but the next few DIYs are really easy too. The next one is a Christmas tree made out of clothespin, so another item that you can get at the Dollar Tree right now, actually all year long. So the pack of clothespins are 36. You're not going to need all 36 of them. You're just going to need a half of a package. So you're going to take one of those little strips that the clothespins come on, and you're just going to make a Christmas tree. Actually, you need less than half a package, 1/4 of a package, I would say. And you're just going to put them on depending on how big you want this Christmas tree. If you want it bigger, you can use more. And what I'm doing is the bottom 4, I'm putting one beside the other, and then the other ones I'm kind of zigzagging up top, as you can see. And then I've put them on, and then I go ahead and hot glue them to make sure that I like the way it looks. So again, there's so many options you could do with the clothespins. You could even take them apart and glue them the other way so that they can make a star, whichever. So many different options. If you guys are interested, I can show you some clothespin DIYs too, if that would interest you. Let me know in the comments below. But you're going to hot glue these down, and then you're going to take some forest green acrylic paint, and you're just going to paint them on and use one of those little balls, that the wood balls that I was talking about, and you're going to add it to the top, and you're going to add one of the Dollar Tree wood stems that they have. They kind of look like birch bark, but like little mini ones. You're going to do that for the stump, and that's all there is to it. And because I noticed he was a little bit wobbly, probably because I stuck him onto the paper instead of a piece of wood, I just added another popsicle stick to the back. But if you put him on a jumbo popsicle stick, he won't be wobbly. So this DIY I actually got from my sister. She's the Domestic Diva DIY. She did this, I think, last year or the year before, where she used some pots. I don't know if she used these exact ones, but she used some pots from the Dollar Tree to create bells. And that's what I'm doing. So I'm just using 2 of them. You could use 3. They come in a pack of 3, so if you wanted to use up all 3 of them, you could. I just wanted to use 2. And I'm going to make them look like they're galvanized, like silver bells. So I start off with just painting them black, and then I do my galvanizing. So I didn't show you the full galvanizing because I have many galvanizing tutorials on my channel. So what I can do is I can actually link one of my videos down in the description below, so just check it out. But what I'm using is, on top of the black, I put some silver and some white and then some more black, and I just dab them on. So I put them all on a little bowl and I dab them on as I go. There's not really like a set, okay, you have to do this first or that. It's just whatever you like to look at. Sometimes I even add blue to it, sometimes I don't. This time I didn't. So then I made little holes into the bells because they have the drainage holes that you can poke through, and I'm putting some jute rope through them, and I'm going to tie that at the top, and then I will have a little bit hang out so it looks like there's like a bell portion inside, and then I will tie a ribbon to it. And sorry, I didn't make myself clear. At the where the little bell portion hangs in the bottom, I do a little knot so it doesn't come out, and then I leave a loop, and then I hot glue it together as well before I add the ribbon. So I'm just using some of this checkered ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I believe they have it even now, not just at Christmas time. And I'm just making like a mock bow. I don't do bow tutorials because I'm not an expert on them, so I feel like I don't do them the best, so I just did little loops and hot glued everything together. And here they are. Now, I saw someone do this similar DIY a while back. I can't remember who it was. I just remember I really liked it, so I had picked up one of these shovels at the beginning of the season. And I'm just spray painting it in this Rust-Oleum heirloom white. Actually, our Walmart was closing down, so these were so cheap. I picked up a whole bunch. And then I'm going to be putting the Rust-Oleum chalked charcoal paint up at the top where the little handle is. By all means, you could use acrylic paint. Now, the only advice that I have for you is maybe put Mod Podge at the bottom and then paint it, because the paint kept on coming off. So I wound up putting Mod Podge over top of it, and I antiqued it a little bit with the black. And now what I wanted to do for this shovel is I wanted to show you that you could use this for all the seasons. So it's very neutral, kind of farmhousey, and I'm going to add jute rope to the kind of stem of the shovel, and then I have a bow that I created again off camera because I had a really hard time creating it, but I'll show you what it looks like finished. And then I'm just gonna Velcro that bow to just where the handle meets the open part of the shovel, and I just Velcro one piece to the bow and one piece to that, so that way you can change it up for the seasons. For the fall, you can use it, a fall ribbon. For the summer, you can maybe do some lemons or whatnot. For spring, some tulips or whichever. So this way it gives you options. As you can see in the back, I didn't put too much paint because wherever I have it, I'll have it kind of against something so you won't see the back. So there's no point in wasting paint. So the ribbon is a mishmash. This white Santa ribbon and snowman ribbon I actually got from my friend. I don't know where she got it. Maybe Michael's and maybe White Rose when they used to have it. She said it's very old and she hasn't used it in years, so she didn't need it, and she knew that I could use it from some of my videos. And then again, that checkered ribbon as well as a little bit of burlap. Well, you made it. We're in the last DIY before the bonus DIYs. So I got this mason jar looking thing sign from the Dollar Tree, and it's Canada Day themed because that's all they had. I know that they have summer themed ones too, so they're probably still around at your store. You might have a 4th of July one if you're in the States. And all I'm going to be doing is Mod Podging this. So the Dollar Tree has these cute little checkered napkins right now. They also have tablecloths and all sorts of things, so it might be a good time to pick these up. And I have little hands helping me. As you can see, he really wanted to Mod Podge this, so I show him what he needs to do and he's going to do it for me. And so I just put the Mod Podge at the bottom, and then, well, he puts it at the bottom, and then I go over top of it a little bit with the Mod Podge. I don't let him do that just because it is tissue paper. I mean, tissue paper, it's a napkin, so it's quite thin. Now, I don't do it all the way around because I'm not going to put anything up at the top. I wind up using 2 napkins just so that you can't see anything through them. So do the 2 napkins. That's why I did this part by myself, just because I was afraid he would rip it, and he also got tired of it. He, you know, his crafting attention span is quite limited. So put 2 of these on, Mod Podge them, let them dry off, then cut off the excess. I just use a fabric cutter for this, and it worked really well. And then I'm going to use some burlap for the bottom and some jute rope for the top. And again, this is another one that you could use in multiple seasons, so I wanted to show you this one as well. So once you have that all glued on there with some hot glue, then you're going to take some floral wire and you're going to put it through those 2 little holes, and you're going to just attach this little clip, and it's just like a little clip for papers that I had on hand, and just hot glue that on and create a little bow. So I'm just using some burlap, the red burlap that I used before, and then some regular burlap, and I'm just making little strips to make a funky little bow that I'm going to attach to the top of the mason jar. So what I'm doing is hot gluing these little bits. I'm doing red burlap, brown burlap, red burlap, brown burlap, and that's it for the bow. Very simple bow. So I showed you this tutorial because it was very simple, and if your bows are a problem like they are for me, then this is something that you could do. And then you can use that little hook to attach your favorite Christmas picture, or if you guys didn't know, it is 23 Mondays until Christmas, so you could attach a cute little sign like that as a countdown. So before I show you the bonus DIYs, as I was painting one of these things, I took some paint out and everything flipped over and spilled on the floor. So again, like, this is what happens on a regular basis when I craft. This is why things take me so long, is because I wind up having to clean up a mess that really didn't need to happen. Anyway, moving on. I got this cutting board. This cutting board is from the Dollar Tree. It's one of those glass cutting boards, and I am spray painting it with my Rust-Oleum high heat black paint. It's matte paint and it dries really fast. Then I used my Cricut to cut out this Dear Santa. Now, I had used other words here that I wanted to use my Cricut for, but it kept on ripping the vinyl, so I decided to write them in myself. And it says, milk if you're thirsty, food for the reindeer, and a cookie made by us. And then that's it. A little tray for Santa. Very cute. I put Mod Podge over top of it so that way it would stay, and I think it's super cute for the boys. I'm using one normal size pool noodle, and I'm using the white duct tape, which you can get at the Dollar Tree. Mine isn't from there, but you can get it there, to wrap around the pool noodle to make it look like a candy cane. Then I cut the pool noodle into several pieces. The first piece I will make a candy cane out of, and then the second piece I will cut into two, and I will make 2 lanterns. So another thing that you can get from the Dollar Tree right now, actually I will probably stock up on a few of these. I saw some really cool DIYs from the Daily DIYer. This is the idea from her, and she had some really cool ideas for pool noodles, so I will definitely pick some up so I can do them for my Christmas DIYs in the winter. So pick them up if you want to do any of these. Then you need some fishing line, and you're going to tie it. Now this was harder than it looks, maybe because I only have one hand that I'm working with, but you're going to tie it so it looks like a candy cane. Maybe you might need someone to help you. Me and my husband did it together because I couldn't do it on my own. And then for the lanterns, you just need these Dollar Tree lanterns, which they have solar lamps, sorry, not lanterns, solar lamps that they have right now at the Dollar Tree. You're going to cut it down to size so you can fit this little lantern in there. You could put this in the ground, or you could put it into something like I did. I'll show you in a second, but then this is like almost not even a DIY, it's done. And here's what I put them into my little farm fresh Christmas trees, these little lanterns in there, and my little candy cane. And I think they just turned out really cute. I'm so happy with how all of these turned out. I think they're really cute, and they'll make awesome decor for Christmas. So I bought this little mini miter saw a little while back, and I am absolutely obsessed with it. I love it so much. So I'm using it to cut down tumble blocks. So for the next few DIYs, I'm just going to be using these tumble blocks to make my snowman. So the first one is kind of a vertical snowman, where I'm just cutting a few of these blocks to size, to the size that I want. So I'm going to be using the full-size ones, and then the little ones that you see there. And I will also be using a few of the little ones kind of the same size for the other DIYs. So I am making my snowman, like I said, vertical. If you've watched my episodes before, you would have seen that I made pumpkins like this. So I'm kind of same idea, but I'm making a snowman. So what I'm doing is just seeing how I want to make this, and I'm using 4 big tumble blocks and then 4 little ones, which are basically 2 big ones if you're thinking of how many you need. A pack of tumble blocks will be more than enough. And here in Canada, I've seen now the 72 pack of tumble blocks, which is amazing, at the Dollar Tree. So again, I'm putting them all together and hot gluing them. And then I'll be painting them in white, just using this Deco Art chalk paint. And then I will be just using a Sharpie to draw on the eyes and the mouth and the carrot nose and the little buttons. I also will paint one of these little pieces of tumble block black, and I will be using that as a top hat for him. I forgot to record myself drawing on the buttons and the arms and all of that stuff, and as well as gluing on the hat. I think I thought I pressed record and I didn't. You know that this happens to me often. But anyway, here is what he looks like all finished, and you only needed 1 coat of the white. The white is pretty good, and like I said, just a Sharpie will do. You could definitely use something else if you wanted to, but a Sharpie worked just fine for me. So for the next DIY, I'm also using Tumble blocks, and I am using again several of these Tumble blocks to make a snowman. This one will be kind of more like a snowman, like a bigger snowman. And I'm just stacking them one on top of the other, gluing them together using my hot glue gun. And you can make this how big or how small you want it. So for mine, I am using a set of 2 for his head tumble blocks, and then 4 for the middle part of his body, and then 6 for the bottom part of his body. So 12 in total. Like I said, it depends on how big or how small you wanted him to be. You make whatever works for you. I did not add arms to him, but you could definitely take a pipe cleaner, or even if you have little sticks from the backyard, you could glue little sticks onto him to make arms. I chose not to for this one. And I am using the white chalk paint again from Decor to paint him in white. And I will be using my Sharpie again to draw his eyes and his nose and his mouth and his little buttons. Now for this guy, I also added a red sparkly pipe cleaner as his scarf. I thought it just gave him a little bit of pop of Christmas. And he's so cute. Now, if you've watched my channel before, you know for Christmas time, I love making snowmen. I've made several in my DIYs before, so if you have some time and you want to see how I've made them, I will have the playlist for Christmas linked in my description below, so you can check out some of the different snowmen that I have made. So here he is completed. I think he's just so cute. And to him, I also added a tumble block for his hat, and then I drew on with a black Sharpie just kind of the bottom part of the hat. So you actually needed one more extra tumble block. These snowmen are so cute and they're so tiny. I think they'll make a perfect kind of tray decor piece if you raise them up a little bit. So I am actually just using 2 tumble blocks for these, and I've cut them down to size. I kind of just cut two large tumble, like 2 normal size tumble blocks into 3 and just different sizes. So the first one I'm gluing one on top of the other vertically and the other one horizontally, just to give you a sense of what they can look like either way. They are super small. They're like a mini tiny decor. I kind of had an idea if one day I make like a fairy garden, but like a Christmas village or something like that, you could use them in that. Or even for my tray, it could just be something that goes as a part if I have a little vignette of a city, like a village or something like that in my tray. I could use them for that. And I just thought they were so cute. Just so tiny and cute. So anyway, I've hot glued them. I've painted them using that Deco art chalk paint, and I drew on with my Sharpies the nose and the eyes and everything, glued on some hats to them, and that's all there is to it. The hats were again from the Tumble blocks, and I cut them out. I believe I used 2 Tumble blocks in total for all of these projects for the hats. And here they are all completed. Okay, so to move away from the Tumble blocks, I had a pine cone that I wanted to use up, and then I also had these styrofoam balls from the Dollar Tree. You can use pine cones that you find from the dollar store, or you can use pine cones from your garden. I believe these ones I got from the dollar store a while back, or from a different store. They were just, no, from a different store, because they were a quarter per bag, and I got a whole bunch of them. And I'm using that same Decor white chalk paint to just add a little bit of white to the pine cones. I'm not painting them fully. I'm just kind of giving them frosted tips and adding a little bit more just so it kind of looks like it has snow on it. And then again, I'll be using that Sharpie to add eyes and a nose to the snowman. And I will be gluing a hat using the Tumble blocks that I painted in black. But I'm going to be doing a bottom part to the hat and a top part, so it kind of looks like a top hat. As you can see, this one that I'm gluing on did not work. I took the wrong Tumble block, so I will wind up taking it off and redoing it. So for this one, you can use it just as a decoration piece in your tray or wherever you have a mini display, or you can attach some jute rope to the back, just hot glue it, and you can make it an ornament. So it really depends on how you wanted to do it. I'm going to use it in my tray, so I won't be attaching any jute rope, but that's totally up to you. It could be, you can make some really cute ornaments. But here he is, all completed. He is so cute too. I am doing a garland. I've started to really like to use these in my trays. So I'm using these beads, which I had gotten from the thrift store a while back, and I spray painted them with the blue color from Rust-Oleum and just a white color, and then I had some black that I had spray painted previously. So I'm going to be using them to make my garland. I used 6 of the blue, 6 of the white, and 4 of the black. And then I'm assembling them. This time I chose to use some fishing line for the instead of jute rope, just because last time when I used jute rope it kind of all fell apart. So I wanted to use this time around. You could, if you have some nice better rope, you could use that jute rope, it just kind of falls apart. So I'm just pushing them through, and then I am doing it that I do 1 black, 3 for white for the snowman, 1 black, and then the 6 blue, and then a black, 3 white, and then another black. And then I'll be using the jute rope for the little tassel at the end. So for tying them off at the end, I just kind of went with the fish line, and I pulled it through, and then I made 2 knots, and then I made another knot, and that made it stay. And then I wound up hot gluing the tassel. I left a little piece extra of the fishing line thinking that I could tie it around, but I didn't like the way it was kind of twisting it. So I wound up hot gluing the tassel to the very last bead.
So the angle is not the best for the tassel here, but what I did was I got a piece of jute rope and I wrapped it 20 times around my hand. Then I cut off a piece. I cut it off at the bottom, tied the top kind of like a head with a different piece of jute rope, and then hot glued it to the last bead. That's all there was to the tassel. I've seen tassels made all sorts of different ways. This is just the way that I chose to make it. So then onto the white, I just drew the snowman's face and the little nose and the mouth, and that's all there is to it, and it turned out really super cute too. I am going to be using some fabric from the Dollar Tree to create my Christmas tree on this wooden plaque that I also got from the Dollar Tree. So before I added the fabric, I actually spray painted it with some heirloom white spray paint, and I'll show you the bottle a little bit later on in the video, in the episode. And it's just a spray paint from Rust-Oleum. It's more like an antique white, so I spray painted it out in that color. And then I just cut little strips from this leftover fabric from last year from the Dollar Tree. I haven't seen it this year now. I have not been going a lot to the Dollar Tree, to be honest with you. I'm trying not to spend so much money at the Dollar Tree because it gets very, very expensive. So I just cut it into strips, and I eyeballed the size of the strips. I try to make them some longer, some shorter, and I wound up just cutting them to size as I was putting the tree together. So it doesn't really matter what size you cut them bigger, and then you can cut them to size however you wind up having them, like how big you want to make them, which ones you want at the bottom. It really is up to you. So you're gonna see kind of what I did, and then you can kind of take it from there when you make your own. And you can use any fabric. You don't have to use Christmas fabric. It's whatever fabric you have left over. If you have like a color scheme that you're going with for your DIY for your Christmas, you could use this in your color scheme. But these are the fabrics I had left over, and I thought they would be really cute on a Christmas tree. So some of the pieces I wound up twisting and then hot gluing in the middle and then putting them down. Other pieces I tied in the middle and then hot glued them down. So again, it just depends whatever look you're going for. It just depended if the piece was a little bit too long, and I was afraid that if I cut it, it wouldn't match up. So then I just made like a little clump, and they all kind of look like they have clumps in the middle. If you wanted to be really precise and have everything kind of be like super lined up, you could also put one of those wood dowels down. Not wood dowels, like, or you could use a dowel, but you could use the skewers from like the barbecue section that they have at the Dollar Tree, and just glue it down the middle, so then you have something like a point, and you could tie the ribbons around it. I've seen that done before, but to me this was easier, and I did not want the wood piece on there, so I liked the way this turned out, and I just alternated the fabrics. I also tried to kind of point the fabrics up a little bit, just so that it would look kind of like a Christmas tree. I always do that with my branches too. I kind of aim them upwards. And then at the end, I just put a snowflake sticker, and then at the bottom I just did a piece of a tumble block that I had, and I hot glued it to the bottom, and I painted everything in a black color. I also dry brushed around the piece, so here's what that looks like. And I just dry brushed the black around because I thought it would just give it more of that rustic feel. And I always like the dry brushing and the antiquing and all of that stuff. I haven't done black in a long time, but I really like the way this turned out. I think it's really, really cute, and it'll look awesome in a tray. I will have a tray decor video next week, not next week, the 16th coming out, so I hope you do check that out. That episode will be over on Vesna TV Home, so make sure you check that out. I'll have it posted in my community as well. And then for the next DIY, it's another cute one as well. And this is probably the easiest DIY ever. I'm ashamed to even call it a DIY. So I like to save Christmas cards that we get, and this is one from last year that I saved. And what I'm doing is I'm taking this frame from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be cutting this old Christmas card to size. So what I do is I take out the little picture that's in the frame and I kind of use it as my guide of where I'm going to cut. And then I cut it to size and I put the little card in there, and that is the DIY. I love this frame. I don't want to stain it or paint it or anything. You could if you wanted to. You could use any old frame that you had, but this is the one that I used, and I've used it for Halloween too, and I just love the way it looks, and it's so easy and anyone can do it. Just save your Christmas cards or buy new ones if there's really nice ones that you like. Sometimes not all of us have printers that we can print images, and maybe we don't want to be, you know, maybe we don't even have a hot glue gun or something like that. So this is something simple that you can do and create really cute decor for Christmas or for any holiday. And you can use that frame for Christmas, for Halloween, for Easter, and just change out the picture. So it could be something really inexpensive that you do. You could even take like from magazines or flyers or something. If there's like a picture of a Christmas tree or something that you like, you could use that too. And that could be even simpler and even cheaper. Let me know what you think of this one. And on to the next. Anyway, my camera also turned off in the middle of it. So what I wound up doing is taking one of those window films from the Dollar Tree and one of these wood pieces of oh my gosh, wood Christmas trees. I can't even talk. And I was originally going to put something else on the back, and then I decided to do this on the one side, but I did go back to it and do the other side as well. Like I said, my camera turned off, so all I did was Mod Podge the window cling to the wood Christmas tree, and then just go around it with some green paint. And then for the other side, what I'm doing here is putting some Mod Podge onto the wood piece, and then I'm going to take a napkin, a Christmas napkin, and put it on, Mod Podge it on, kind of decoupage stuff on there. What I did was I forgot that you needed to separate the napkin and just take the one layer. And I separated it, and then I realized that there was another layer to it, so I had to take it off and do it again. Anyway, live and learn. Make sure you take off all of the layers if you're going to do this, and make sure your hands are clean. My hands were kind of sticky, so they were sticking to it. It was just kind of like a mess. As you can see, this weekend was a mess. This whole week has been a mess for me. I was really, really sick from last weekend all the way until like all week I've been sick. I'm still sick. I finally felt a little bit better today. That's why I could do some of these. Some of these I had done. I just had pre-done when I did my other DIYs, but I was able to finish these, but I was sick. And then yesterday I cut my hand, and I had to get, well, I thought it was going to be stitches, but they glued it together, so you can see that in the video. So it just wasn't the best DIYing day, but I did finish what I had started previously, so that way I could get something for you guys today. That's why I'm late. And yeah. So anyway, so here it is. So you're going to put Mod Podge at the bottom, Mod Podge at the top. And then I just took some sandpaper and I sanded the edges down, and then I went over top of that with that forest green on both sides, kind of dry brushed around. So I'll show you both pieces finished again. So here they are all finished. Like I said, I think they turned out okay, but they're not my favorite. So here's the one side, and I wanted it to be a bit vintagey, and here's the other side. I have this jar. This is not Dollar Tree, but you can get these jars at the Dollar Tree. I've used these jars so many times. They're from Peaches that we get at Costco. And I'm painting out the jar in that heirloom white. And I'm painting the lid out in a metallic gold paint. And they're both, one is Rust-Oleum, one is Rona brand. Rona is Well, they were bought out by Lowe's now, but they were a Canadian company. Um, so this is their brand of the metallic paint. We still have a few of them around. And then I'm also using this Merry Christmas card from from the Dollar Tree. It was just a set of cards. And I'm going to be Mod Podging it onto the jar itself. Then I'll be using some jute rope and I'll be tying that around the top of the jar. And then I'm going to add some embellishments. And the embellishments are just like one of those little trees from the Dollar Tree, the bottlenose tree. I think bottlenose trees is what they're called. And just two little I always want to call them acorns, and they are not acorns. My gosh, the English word is escaping me. Pine cones. So I start off by cutting out the image kind of to the size that I want it to be. I wanted to keep the Merry Christmas, but it was just too big, and to cut it down so it would fit, I didn't like the way it would look. So I wound up just using the car image, which at the end turned out to be great. So what I do is I cut out the image and then I wet it around with a paper towel, and then I use my hand to just kind of rip off the pieces around it so that way it looks kind of vintagey. So I Mod Podge the image to the jar, and be generous with the Mod Podge. Add lots at the bottom and then lots over top. There was just a little piece that was kind of sticking up, so I wound up hot gluing that down because the way the image is, it's kind of like a puffed up image. So I wound up hot gluing just the little pieces that were sticking out too much and not gluing down. And then I hot glued the jute rope around and added my embellishments. And at the end, I wound up dry brushing some black around. This episode had a lot of black dry brushing, which, like I said, I haven't done in a while, but I really like the way it looks. I did it for some of the Halloween stuff, and now I kind of am going back to doing it again because I like the way it looks. So here's the finished piece, and again, I love it. It's so cute. It'll just look like a nice little tray decor piece. Now I won't use all of these in one tray. That's why I didn't want to really put them, showcase them in a tray. I'll kind of use them in different trays to add to what I already have. Picked up the ceramic truck at the Dollar Tree, and I just gave it an uplift. So I painted it, and what I did was I used that heirloom white that I used throughout the project, the spray paint, and I spray painted it all in white. And see how it gives it more of a yellow color rather than that clear white, or that crisp clean white. And then I just went and I dry brushed black all around it, and I added some to the tires, and then just any of the grooves I added black to it. And I did it on both sides, and then I painted the Christmas tree in black and the wreath black, and then I added some red to the bow on the wreath, and that's all there was to it. I actually also used a Sharpie because it has this little Mary banner that goes around the truck. So I used a Sharpie just to kind of outline the triangles, and then I did go with a brush over top in a different kind of green, but I used like a lighter green to go over top of those, and then I used a black Sharpie to go over top of the words where it says Mary. And so here it is, all finished and painted, and I think it turned out really cute, and it'll go great in a tray. I'll have to probably prop it up a little bit so that you can see it, but that's it right there. So for the first one, I'm going to be using this Tremclad flat white spray paint. It's just a spray paint I had on hand. And I'm going to be using this Christmas tree and a crate. Don't worry about this square. I will be using this as well, but I'm going to be using the crate for this DIY, as well as some foam blocks from the Dollar Tree and some red spray paint. I will also use some vinyl to cut out for my writing, and then that's all there is to this DIY. Actually, there'll be a little bit of a ribbon as well. So what I've done is I've spray painted the Christmas tree. I've written down the numbers on my little foam blocks using a paint pen, and I've cut out Christmas countdown using a child's font from DaFont, and I wanted it to look like a child had written down Christmas countdown, and I actually did Xmas countdown. I know some people really don't like that being used for Christmas, but for this I thought it would be really cute as a little child's countdown. So I just removed my vinyl, and I always use transfer paper for transferring the vinyl because when you have like a sign or anything like that, it tends to stretch quite a bit. So I apply that, and you have to be really careful because when you have little thin fonts, it wants to raise up. So just when you're pulling it off, just be careful. So this video is a part of the DIY collab that Domestic Diva hosts, and it's a great collab because there's a whole bunch of creators that come together and we create a playlist of different DIYs that we're doing. The theme for this month is Christmas. So if you haven't had a chance to check out this challenge, make sure you check it out. I'll have the playlist linked in my description, and I'll have Sonia over at Domestic Diva DIY. I'll have her information linked in my description below as well. Make sure you check her out. She is one super talented lady. Once I get my vinyl on there, I wanted to put a little bit of a bow up top, and I thought I could put it kind of halfway down. Then I didn't like that, so I put it a little bit higher, and I still didn't like that. So then I took some ribbon and I just added like a bow to the top that kind of flowed down, and I really liked the way that turned out. And again, I just made a little bow, tying it kind of like you would a shoelace, and just hot glued it on. There was a little crack in the Christmas tree, so I was just adding some glue to fix it up. So after I added all of that, I just touched up some of the cubes because the paint had kind of ripped off when it was drying, and I put it in, and there's my countdown. I think it's really, really cute. What do you think? So for the DIY number 2, I am using these wood snowflakes, which I got at Dollar Tree. And they're just different sizes, and they're not sticky at the back, they're just little wood cutouts, and I'm spray painting them in that same Tremclad flat white spray paint. And I'm also using a bamboo cutting board, and this is another super easy one. All of these are really quick and easy DIYs. So I'm just going to be, once these snowflakes dry, I'm going to be creating a Christmas tree. So I just kind of try to figure out how I want the sizing to work and the pattern. This is totally personal preference, so kind of play around with it and see what you like. It all depends on what size your snowflakes are and which ones you wind up buying. The only tricky thing with this one is that I noticed that I wanted my board to be darker after I put this on, after I hot glued them on. So I went back and I stained it with the Rust-Oleum decorative glaze in Java. Now, before you hot glue your pieces down, kind of take a look at your board and see if you like it. And if you're gonna write in words, so kind of the reason I wound up staining it darker is I didn't really like the way the words looked that I wrote down. You'll see what I mean a little bit later. So I kind of went back and tried to mute them and make them look kind of like they're faded. They were just a little bit too dark and too rich. So kind of play around with that before you use a Sharpie. I should have done that before, and I knew, as like when I was writing with that Sharpie, I knew that I'm like, oh, I should have just made sure I liked it before I committed to a Sharpie, but live and learn. So that's kind of something that I would have done differently, but I still like the way it turned out. I did wind up using one more thing, the same ribbon that I used in the DIY before, and I covered the Merry Christmas. I didn't like the way I wrote it freehand, so I covered it up with that ribbon, and like I said, I went over top with decorative glaze and everything just to mute everything down. So I wrapped the ribbon over top a few times, and I wanted it to kind of look like it was kind of coming off. So I wanted like different levels to it, so that's what I did. So I just used a little bit of Dollar Tree sandpaper, and I just, like I said, sanded down the words a little bit, and then I applied the decorative glaze first with a paper towel, and then I kind of worked it in, and then I used a brush to get it in between. I did get it a little bit on the snowflakes, so I used a baby wipe to remove it. That's why I said it's easier if you do all of these things before you attach your Christmas tree, like your little snowflakes, but I think it turned out really cute regardless, and here is the finished piece. Let me know what you think. So again, another super DIY for number 3. I'm using, again, this spray paint, and I'm using this square plank, and it's from the Dollar Tree, to create my DIY. And I only need one coat of this. And then I'm also using these trucks from the Dollar Tree. They're ornament trucks. I'm not using these Christmas lights. My son just put them in my hand, gave them to me, so I put them on the table, so you might see his little hands grabbing them over here. But I remove the ornament, and I remove all the little hooks off of the ornament, and then I hot glue it to the bottom of the truck, leaving a little bit of space because I will also be using that same ribbon. So basically I used one roll of that ribbon for the entire, like for all 3 DIYs. So it went a long way, and then I used a little bit of a different kind of ribbon for the bow on this as well. And again, like I said, this is a super easy one, and I had a snowflake left over. You can see it in the corner there from the first DIY, so I put that on here as well. And then I distress it with that Rust-Oleum decorative glaze to give it more of a rustic look. And that's basically all there is to it. I do, like I said, wrap at the bottom some of that ribbon and at the top, and then I do like a little bow just using little strips of ribbon. And then I add a little bell, which is from a bell garland from the Dollar Tree that I had left over actually from last year. So after I get everything glued on, I use a pencil this time. I'm a little bit smarter than I was with the previous DIY, and I write in the words Christmas trees, and I put a little arrow. I'm using a red Sharpie to go over top of the Christmas trees wording, and then I'm using a black Sharpie for the arrow. And that's all there is to this one. Another super easy one. These can be tray decor pieces. These can be little accents in your vignettes. It can be anything. They're just cute little Dollar Tree DIYs that are super fun and super easy to make. And I think they turned out great. Look at this guy. Look how cute he is. Let me know which one is your favorite. If you have not subscribed, make sure you hit the big subscribe button, hit the like button. I also have a coffee page, so if you wanted to buy me a coffee, please go ahead and do that. That's linked in my description below. Alrighty, so for this trash to treasure, my husband was lovely enough to cut out some snowmen out of plywood, and we just have a bigger one, a bigger one and a smaller one, just two level one and like a 3-ball one. I will be painting these out, one of them in this heirloom white and Rust-Oleum spray paint. So as you can see, it's a little bit of a kind of like an antique white. And then on one of them, I'll just do, I know it's like a rust paint, but I really like this one. So it's just a flat white, like really white paint. And that's what I'll be doing these guys, because one I want kind of to look antique and the other one like really crisp and white. And then I'll just be decorating them. Really easy trash to treasure DIYs. So the bigger snowman I actually did in the heirloom white, and I'm just using some cardstock from the dollar store to cut out his hat. I kind of thought about what I could use, and this is what I came up with. You could probably use construction paper too, and or if you have some cardboard, you could paint it black and use that if you really wanted to do true trash to treasure. And so I'll just freehand cut out a top hat, and then I freehand draw on the carrot nose and the eyes and the buttons. And then I'll be adding, from leftover ribbon, I'll be adding just a little scarf. Now I'm not worried about the eyes being like exactly the same size. Our eyes aren't always the same size. If you're making a snowman outside, whatever you're using for his eyes is not going to be the same size. So I like to have things look that way. I know for some people they really like it to be kind of perfect. And if that's what you're going for, maybe use a stencil, or even if you can find some stickers, that could be something that you do. Or if you're lucky enough to have a Cricut, you could do Cricut. And I'm just using hot glue to glue everything. So once I drew everything on, I just distressed him a little bit more because I wanted him to be a little bit antique-y. And so I just used some black acrylic paint and just dry brushed it on the edges and just kind of all over the snowman. This is just an extra step that I added. You obviously make however you want him to be. I am going to apologize about my voice. I still have not gotten it back. I'm not sure. It's been like a month and I still can't seem to get it back. So I sound a little funny. But anyway, that's all there's to him. Let me know what you think. I think he's really cute, and he'll make like a nice tray decor piece or a mantle decor, whichever, or a nice little sign. If you want to hang him up, you just, use some command strips. So the next guy I painted in the flat white. Same thing, I used a top hat. I used the cardstock as a top hat. And then I had a different kind of ribbon that I used for his scarf. And then I added some arms, and these are just little sticks that I found in the garden, and little tiny sticks that I hot glued on for his arms. The other one did not have arms. And this guy I did not distress, and I did put their hats on kind of crooked because I thought they would look cuter that way. And that's all there is to this guy too, so let me know what you think of him. So my mom had this salt shaker that she was throwing out. So I'm going to make a Christmas DIY out of it. So it's any old salt shaker. Like if you have some that have like, look at this, this is kind of gross. It's rusted over, it's gotten gross. She actually had 2 of them, salt and pepper shaker. But when I tried to remove, because it had rusted so bad, when I tried to remove the lid, it actually broke the salt shaker. So for this guy, I'll be using that flat white spray paint, and then I'm going to use a red spray paint for the top, because that'll kind of be like his hat. It is this colonial red spray paint.
So after I spray painted him, I kind of did a lot of thinking as to how I'm going to actually go create a Santa. I did see a snowman salt shaker, and those are a little bit easier to do. So I played around with maybe just adding the little lid of the salt shaker as his hat, but not adding a head, and I didn't like the way any of it looked, so I wound up adding a styrofoam ball as his head and then some felt as his hat. So you'll see that in the next clip. So what I actually did is like I said, I used the styrofoam ball. I hot glued it to the top of the salt shaker, and then I did the metal part on top of his head. And again, I contemplated leaving it, but I did want it to have kind of like a Santa hat. So I just added some embellishments. I gave him a beard, and for the beard, I used some leftover fur, white fur that I had from last year. It's all from the dollar store. I think maybe Dollarama or Dollar Tree, I'm not sure. One of them I got last year. I Sharpied his eyes on, and then I Sharpied just little rosy cheeks and a pink nose. And then over the cheeks, I just went over with white to kind of dull down the pink so it wasn't so pink. And then I also added a mustache using that same fur. And then again, for the hat, I used felt, and for his arms, I used felt.
Okay, so what I did here was I added just a piece of felt that I cut into a triangle. I glued it to the base of this top here. And then I added some of the fur at the end. And then here I just used, this was a washcloth from the Dollar Tree. So I cut out just a strip of it, and then I glued it onto the back here. And then here, I'm just going to do a makeshift wreath, and that's what he's going to be holding. Or maybe I'll do a present. Actually, I have a present. There we go. I'll do a little present that I'm going to wrap up in some of this ribbon. See what I mean? Sometimes I think on the fly, and it'll look cute. So what I've done here is I've cut a strip like this, and I'm using the wire side. And then I wrapped it here, and then I'm going to wrap it around this way too, and then I'm going to hot glue it so that it looks like he's holding it. So there it is. So there it is. He's holding it. You can see I've hot glued it to his belly. And there he is. He's so cute.
Let me know what you think of him. But again, a super easy DIY.
Then this one, I will be making into a snowman as well. I love snowmen. And I'm going to be painting this out in a crisp white like this one. Now, you may have watched my ghost that I made for Halloween. This is kind of the same thing, except I'm using just a jar. You've probably seen me use these guys as well. This is from Peaches from Costco, and these jars are perfect. They don't, like, everything comes off really nicely. They're like an awesome shape, and I love using them. And then I'm gonna use an old, like you can see it's rusty, an old ring from a mason jar. You could use a mason jar if you don't have these. I just thought to make it a true trash to treasure. And because I have lots of these, we love eating canned peaches. And so for this, I'll be doing spray painting this black, and I'll show you the plaque paint in a minute. And because it doesn't quite, like it doesn't fit in, I'm going to hot glue it. So just, you know, make some adjustments. So I have very little of this paint left, but if it's enough, it's just a black spray paint. It's just any old spray paint that you can have. I just like it because it's fast drying and it's for wood and metal and it's interior and exterior. So if I decided to use something outside, I could. And same with this guy. So if I wanted to put this out, I could. And that's it.
So even for this guy, I just drew everything freehand using a Sharpie, a black and orange Sharpie, and then I'm adding a scarf to the bottom. And then I have some difficulties. I have dirty fingers that have paint on them, and I wound up getting black paint on him, so I will have to fix it, but I'll show you that in a minute.
So like a dummy, I spray painted the wrong size of mason jar, so you need the ones with the smaller holes. So, or maybe this solar lamp isn't. I have other solar lamps, but I can't find them. I don't know what I've done with them, so I've just used an old one. And they're the ones from the Dollar Tree, but I think these are very, very old ones. So the new ones, I believe, are bigger. And I packed away my Halloween stuff, and I don't know why I packed away the solar. I didn't think I did, but I can't find it. Anyway, so I'm going to put this in, and I'm going to make this hole a little bit bigger so I can squeeze this guy in. And just hot glue everything to the base here. But I'll start, I don't want to paint anything more like to waste, so, and I can't buy the solar lamps now, so I'm going to improvise, as you can improvise when you're making DIYs. So just glue that in there. Oh no, I got it on my fingers.
So I've cut the hole to fit the solar lamp, and I'm just going to color it in black. And because I'm always in a rush, I seem to never be able to be ahead of the game. I am using my hairdryer to just quickly dry the paint off so I can do another coat, because I did have to do 2 coats because it's from a ribbon roll. The little thing is from a ribbon roll, and it's that glossy cardboard, so it makes it kind of slippery and a little bit harder to paint. You have to do just 2 coats, not harder, just 2 coats. So I did correct where I got my finger marks on the jar. I wound up just spray painting that part, and then then I'm going to go over with some Deco Art chalk paint in white, and I just go over the whole jar, including where I've Sharpied his face, and then I just use a baby wipe to wipe it off. And then at the bottom of his hat, just to cover the ring parts, because of course the mason jar, it wasn't a mason jar, so it shows the ring parts, I'm going to put a little bow, again with some leftover ribbon, just to give it a good nice cover and just to make the hat look fancier. Now, this solar light will glow and it'll make your snowman glow. So if you wanted to have it in the dark, it's a great little piece to have. Unfortunately, it is not dark, so I wasn't able to show you, but I can link the Halloween decor video so you can kind of see what it looks like when it's glowing in the dark. And because this was an old solar light, it was just in a box, so it did not have enough time to charge. So I am, like I said, not able to show you what it looks like in the dark. So here he is, all finished. I hope you like him. I think he turned out pretty cute. And again, a great tray decor or mantle decor or anything, really. He's just cute. Let me know what you think.
Okay, so for this one, it's kind of like a trash to treasure. The only reason why I would say kind of is because when you, like, if you have an old calendar that you're not going to use, so some of you might have the 2021 calendars, well, the year is coming to an end. Don't throw it out, because you have all these beautiful pictures that you can use, little ones or big ones. So I'm going to use actually the December. So right here, I'm going to use this picture, and I love keeping these. So I keep all sorts of calendars for the pictures, and I'm going to make it into a sign. Great way to reuse stuff. And also, like, if you have wrapping paper, you could do that with wrapping paper. Christmas cards, you can make a collage, or you could just make mini pictures. So many options. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to use the cardboard that it comes with to keep it straight, and this picture, and I'm going to make a nice winter picture. Now I will also use tumble blocks. You don't have to, because if you have enough paint stir sticks, you could totally make a frame out of those. I just don't. So I'm using the blocks, but you could, like, you can see, you can kind of go like that. I'm going to use tumble blocks just as a frame. You don't even have to do that if you don't want to. Or if you have little bits and pieces of wood, kind of that you've cut up from other projects, you could make a nice border around. Super easy. Or even if you have, you know, old wood rulers that are being chucked or whatever, and you wanted to use them, have a purpose for them, you could use those as well. Many options. I've run out of all of my trash, so I'm using my tumble blocks to do this. And I will stain the tumble blocks so that they're a nicer, darker color. So I'm using the cardboard that came with the calendar, and I'm going to glue on the piece on there. I'm using Mod Podge. You can use a glue stick. It might even work better with a glue stick. I just found that my glue stick dried out. And then I'm gluing it on, and then I'm going to use the tumble blocks, and I'm going to use 6 for each side, so 24 tumble blocks, less 1 or 2, just because you have to make some cuts and if you make some mistakes, but aim for 24, and if you use less, great. And I'm going to paint the tumble blocks in a black acrylic paint, and then I will hot glue everything as my frame, and that's all there is to this DIY. Super, super easy. So again, when you get to the end, you're going to have little bits that you have to cut. I'm using my mini miter saw that I have. You could use anything that you prefer using. This is kind of why I got it for these tumble block projects. It's quite hard to cut without just because there's such little cuts, but maybe you have some tools that you can use. I just found that this is the best one to use. So I just kind of put a pencil mark where I wanted it to be cut. And then again, hot glued everything. Now I didn't glue anything at the back to help for it to hang. You could glue some jute rope to the back to have it hang, but I think I'm going to have it like on my mantle. So I just leave it the way it is. And then I just use a little bit of black acrylic paint just to kind of distress around the frame, and that's all there's to it. Let me know what you think of this.
So let's start with gift number one. Really easy to do. I'm using some of this rope from the Dollar Tree. It's just a nice Christmas color. It's red and white, so I really like it. And I will be using all of these candies here and this little snowman, again, I mean snowman, Santa from the Dollar Tree. And I've got some Skittles, some jelly beans, some Mike and Ike's, and some Sour Patch Kids, and these little candy cane M&Ms. So what I'm doing is I'm making Santa's sled, and he's going to be carrying these Skittles and jelly beans. Really, really easy, really cute DIY, and this can be for a candy lover, for anybody really, or a kid, or an adult that loves candy, whoever, but it's just something really cute to make and very easy. So what I'm going to do is just dab a little bit of hot glue on the candy canes, but just very little, and I'm going to dab it on the boxes as well, just to glue everything together. And then I'll use that rope to kind of tie everything together, and then I'll use some ribbon at the back as well to tie the sacks together. I don't want to use too much just because it is food and I don't want it going through, but just a little bit to hold everything. You could use double-sided tape if you wanted to, or even tape if that's what you'd like. I chose to do a little bit of hot glue. And with the rope, what I'm doing is I'm just tying the candy canes together at the base, and then I am tying them to Santa's hands so that it looks like he is pulling the sled. And then I just make sure that it's nice and tight after I get him positioned. And then, like I said, I do that ribbon. You can use any ribbon you want. The one that I chose was from the Dollar Tree. It's the little elf ribbon. And I thought that was fitting since this is Santa. And I just make that really nice and tight. I apologize for my head popping in there. And that's all there's to this guy. So this is a super fun and super customizable like gift that you can make for anybody. You can choose whatever candies you want. He doesn't even have to be carrying candies. He could be carrying bath stuff or gift cards, whatever. It's just a cute little way of presenting a gift. So I thought it was awesome. Let me know what you think. I will be attaching one of those little tags, gift tags from the Dollar Tree, and attaching the name of the person that I'm giving this to. And here he is, all finished. The next gift is also very easy to do, and it's not really a DIY. It kind of is, but it isn't. I got these little buckets from the Dollar Tree. I was going to refinish some of them, but then I thought that they were really nice as it is. And I'm just adding a bunch of chocolates and different goodies, again from the Dollar Tree, into these baskets, and again customizable and really easy to make, and a cute little gift for anybody. If you have like a work gift that you need to give, under $10 or whatnot, this is a great way to add these chocolates. The chocolates that I'm using are a little bit more expensive. Some of them are from the Dollar Tree and some of them aren't. So, you've got your Lindt and your Laura Secord, and then those little Bailey's ones. And then I'm just going to wrap them in saran wrap and put a nice little bow, not saran wrap, I apologize, in one of the Christmas gift bags, clear gift bags, and make a little bow at the top, and that's all there is to it. Now, I did forget to mention what I did wind up doing is I took out the chocolates and I put them in the little gift bag, and then I put the gift bag into the bucket, tied up the little bag with just some of that same rope that I used before, and then added the ribbon. And I did this because I wanted the little tins showing because I think they're really cute. And so I just did it this way. And then I lifted up the little handle for the pail and I hot glued the ribbon to there. And again, my ribbons aren't spectacular. I just did kind of like you would tie a shoelace, and then I just fluffed them up.
And now I did the same for all of them. I'm not going to show you every single one individually because that would be boring, and I don't want to make this video super long. So I'll just show you how I did this one, and that's it. So let me know what you think at the end of this gift. Would you like to receive this gift, or would you give it to somebody? Had an idea in my head. It didn't quite turn out the way I wanted it to. So I've purchased some of these candies from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be filling this little candy jar up. Now, my first idea was to use a water slide and put that on the glass. Then I decided that I didn't want to do that. So then I saw an idea where somebody used tissue paper on glass, and it looked really good. So I had some Christmas tissue paper, so I thought I would use that. But then after I applied that, I really didn't like it. I just thought it kind of looked like frumpy. So because I already Mod Podged the tissue paper on, I decided, okay, if I spray paint it white and then kind of like rough it up a little bit, maybe it'll look like kind of like an antique old kind of jar, and I'll have more of a farmhouse look to the jar instead of a Christmas look, and then I'll just tie a Christmas bow or a buffalo check bow so that way it can be for all the seasons. And that's kind of where my thinking was. Let me know if you would have kept the Mod Podge or if you like the new version better. So I am leaving this part in just in case you do decide that you want to do it, so you can kind of see how I did it. But anyway, like I said, I wasn't too excited about it. So you guys know I like to spray paint, so this is the spray paint that I used on the jar to get it to be white, and here's what it looks like now. So here it is. It kind of looks aged with a black top. So I'm going to put the design over here, and then I will distress them a little bit with black. So I decided not to put a design on. I just distressed them with black, filled it with candies, and added this cute little bow on it. And you can interchange that depending on the season if you wanted to make it more holiday themed. And I did spray paint the black lid as well with the same spray paint as I did the white the trim clad. I like him. He's not my favorite, but he's okay. Let me know what you think. For this gift, I'm using these candles from the Dollar Tree, and I'm removing the plastic around them, and I'm going to be melting them and creating a different kind of candle. I tried two different methods for melting them. I tried them on in a pot on the stove. I didn't like the way it was melting, so probably because my pot wasn't deep enough, but I didn't want to use so much water. It was a really big pot. The next pot would be my canning pot. So then I switched to the oven method, and I love this method. It's no mess, and I don't have to worry about it. I just use a pan, and then I put an aluminum pan in there, put the two candles in, set the oven to 350, preheated it to 350. I set the timer for 15 minutes, but it actually wound up being about 27 minutes. So this probably varies depending on your oven. So just make sure you're cautious with that. And then I got these two mugs from the Dollar Tree, and I poured my wax in there. I took the wick out, and then I put it back in. I placed it in and I let it set, and then I cut off the excess once it's set. And I made 3 using these little mugs. They didn't have any more. And then I made 1 using just a different kind of mug from the Dollar Tree. Now, I didn't mention before, I just let them cool and harden at room temperature. I didn't put them in the fridge or anything like that, if you're wondering.
And here's what they look like. So that's the different one, and then I have one in just like the cellophane gift bag with like a little bit of a ribbon around. I think they're all cute. Whichever way you choose to go, you might want to do 2 as a set or 1. It's up to you, but I think they're super cute. So this gift is really easy. I got this mug. I thought this was a fitting mug for the person that I'm giving it to. Naughty, nice, or tired. And they can use the mug if they want. They can use it for whatever office supplies if they want. And then I got some hot chocolate in here. It's a Laura Secord. And then I've got a lint bar that they can have in here. And I've got one of these cookies and cream straws. And I'll be adding a candy cane and wrapping it in cellophane. And that's all there is to this one. Again, kind of like a cheat DIY for this. So you could just have it like this and maybe tie a little bow to the handle. Or you could put it in one of these little gift bags and tie a bow. You could even tie the candy cane out or just leave it in like that, whichever way you'd like it. Let me know what you think of this one. So this next project is also an easy one. All you need is this pot holder, some vinyl. Now you can do heat transfer, which is what I'm doing. If you have just permanent white vinyl, you could use that as well. If you have a different color pot holder, you use whatever you need. This was from the Dollar Tree. You're gonna need a wooden spoon or a plastic spoon, a sugar cookie mix, and a little cookie cutter. The vinyl. Now, when you're doing heat transfer, make sure you mirror it and make sure you put the shiny side down. I did it backwards the first time, so it is what it is. It'll be fine. Anyway, just keep that in mind when you're doing it. Like now, when I'm going to put it on, I'm going to put it on like this. But when you're cutting it, you have to put the shiny side down. And then I'm using this sugar cookie because they're nice Christmas cookies. You have one of these and then just a cookie cutter. So the design is from Creative Fabrica, and I will link that below in my description. I was going to create it myself, but this is so much easier. So here it is done. You can put it in cellophane, you can put it in a bag. If you're giving it to somebody right away without having to carry it or anything, you can just give it to them like this. You can, tie a little nice little ribbon or something right over there. But I thought this was cute, and I thought it was cute to match the ladle to the color of the vinyl. And then a little cookie cutter. So as I said, it's an easy and inexpensive project. So you're going to need these cooling racks from the Dollar Tree. So for the biggest one, I actually used 4. If you don't want to make 3 of these ones, or if you want to make them all the same size, you can kind of custom make to whatever you want. But I wanted 3 different sizes. So the first one you're going to need 4, and you're going to just attach them using zip ties, which I also got from the Dollar Tree. And just to make a square, it's going to be open, so you're not going to be closing the square off. And like I said, zip ties work best, especially if you're going to be using it outdoors, because sometimes the hot glue with the change in temperatures, it doesn't hold the best. And metal and hot glue aren't the best combinations all the time either. And once you do this, if you want it to be a little bit sturdier for the outside, you might want to put in something in the corners, kind of like I did over here, just to keep it sturdy and make it a little bit heavier. Now, what we did was we used just an old pipe from like a cheap dollar store towel hanger, and my husband just bent it just so it would kind of make like an L shape, and he put it in the corners, and then we zip tied it together. And this just kind of helped hold the position. If you don't have these pipes or you can't bend them, I don't know how he bends these things, but he does. Then what you could do is you could use an old hanger, like a metal hanger, and take it apart and then just make an L shape just to kind of hold the shape, or anything really that you can find around the house. This is what we had, so this is what we used. And then what I'm doing is I'm taking some lights. These are actually icicle lights that we didn't wind up using in our decor, and I don't think we will use because some of them aren't working. So I'm just kind of twirling them on the inside using a zip tie to hold them together, and I will have like a clump of them on the inside as well. And this is just to give the illusion that it's a lit up present. If you don't have these or you don't want to use these, you can always use ones maybe with a timer if you can find outdoor ones that have a timer that are maybe battery operated. If you have a covered porch, the problem with me is my porch is not covered, so I have to make sure that whatever I put outside can withstand the elements. So I'm using these ones which were normally outside anyway, and I will just have the little electricity just kind of underneath tucked away. And that's why I'm not closing the top either. It's just so I can have access to them. But you could close the top. You could put the next part that I'm going to show you, could put that over top and have it all closed. I just didn't want it. I wanted it to be open. But if you have a covered porch, you can even use battery operated ones if the temperature can withhold, like if the temperature outside isn't too crazy that the batteries won't work. But any of those things, or even like a USB one if you wanted to, but just make sure whatever you're using is appropriate for the outdoor elements if you're going to get it wet over there or snow or anything like that. So to hide the metal parts, because you don't want, that's not the nicest looking Christmas present, although I'm sure if you painted and put a nice bow it wouldn't look too bad either, but I wanted the lights and everything to be hidden. You're going to need one of these shelf liners from the Dollar Tree, actually 2 packages for the big one, and they come in lots of colors. I chose this white, kind of off-white creamy color, but you can choose whatever you'd like. And this you're going to attach with zip ties, and this is where you'll use just a touch of hot glue. And then you can also put zip ties through just to make sure it holds a little bit better. Now I did wrap it around twice, and it was just enough to cover pretty much the whole thing. I think there was one little part at the back where it didn't do like a double and it was just a single, but that's my back part, so I was okay with that. If you wanted it to completely color, you could cut on piece and just cover it, but I was okay with that. And like I said, hot glue and zip ties to combine both so that it holds nice and tight. And that's it for the first one. Then for the second one, you're actually only going to need 2 of these cooling racks, because you're going to bend each one of them in the middle to make it kind of like an L shape so that you can make a box. So if you wanted them to be really small and all the same size, you could use this. You could, have them stacked one on top of the other and then connect them that way. So many options. I might go back and take them apart and just connect them that way. But for now, this is how I've done them. But like I said, this is so customizable. I'm glad I saw this, and I saw this on a video, but I can't remember if it was a YouTuber or a blog where I saw it. But if you're watching and you did something like this, and I mean, I guess I'll give you credit, whoever it is. I just don't know who I saw it with. They did it a little bit differently. They didn't do the big one like I did. So, you know, I got the idea from it and then I made it my own, as I do with a lot of things. But anyway, then I continued to attach them with the zip ties and make my squares. So once you make your shape and you attach it with your zip ties, you're going to need that roll of shelf liner again. And you're going to double wrap this one as well and attach it with the zip ties. So once you get the shelf liner on that one, then you can go to the next one. And the next one is going to be even smaller, and I'm just going to actually go ahead and use one of the shelf racks, cooling racks. And I'm going to actually just bend it at each of the sections to make a square. This you have to be careful because you can break it if you bend too hard or too fast or too much. So just really gently bend it until you get your shape. So what I did was I did the outside ones first and then I did the middle. Like I said, be careful so you don't break it. And then again, you use your zip ties to hold them and connect them, and then you wrap it around with your shelf liner. So I believe I used 4 shelf liners with a little bit left over, but if you decide to not double wrap it, then you may use even less. And like I said, use a combination of the hot glue and the zip ties to attach the shelf liner as well. You kind of do it on the inside so that way you don't see it from your second layer of shelf liner, and that's all there is to it. Then you just put the lights in and you find a spot where you want the electricity coming out of, and I wound up actually attaching all 3 together with a zip tie at the bottom so that they would be just a little bit heavier in case we had winds. And then I also use these ribbons from the Dollar Tree just to make it look like a present. And with the bow, I'm not going to show you how I did the bow. I told you I'm not good at the tutorials, so I just kind of did a bow my own way. Here they are all lit up inside, and then I'll show you also what they look like outside. Thank you so much for watching, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. I will be posting a combination mega video next week of all of my 2021 Christmas DIYs, so make sure you check that out. Everyone seems to really enjoy the mega videos, so hopefully you do too. And then in the new year, we will be getting some more new videos. I will be taking a break from creating DIYs until the new year. I have been sick a lot, and maybe it's just a bit too much of all of the stuff that's between work and all the other stuff. So I will be taking a break from creating. I will make another few videos between Christmas and New Year's, and but they'll be mega videos, and I will have a little message for you guys on Christmas Eve. So thank you so much. Hopefully you come back and watch loads. If you are wanting to know when I'm posting these videos, make sure you pop that notification button, and it will let you know when I post new videos or things on my community. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
So I'm going to sound really vain and say, this next one is really cute too. I love it, because I really do love all the ones that I created. So this is a cool one because I'm using one of these little craft jars from the Dollar Tree. I thought I had two on hand, but I didn't. So the other one that I'm using is just a glass jar. So this is where you could use stuff that you have on hand at home. I just wanted to show you that you could get one of these craft jars at the Dollar Tree and it would work. But like I said, any old jars, if you can reuse them rather than recycling them, is great. So you need 2 jars, some gold metallic paint, white paint, and some black paint, and a little bit of ribbon. I'm using this checkered one, which I actually got during the summer, not at Christmas time, so you might be able to pick it up now. I got that last year though. So hopefully any kind of red ribbon would work too. You're going to paint both of these jars. One jar you're going to paint red, the other jar you're going to paint white. Now I did have one of my viewers tell me that pouring the paint might work a lot better with the glass. I saw the comment after I painted these, so next time I'm painting any glass or anything like that, I might try it. I tend to get really messy, so I don't like to pour stuff, but you know, why not give it a try? So I did 2 coats of white and red, and I did a little bit on the inside, not like too much, just a bit, so in case I saw like a little bit coming through. The white I had to do a little bit more. If you do have chalk paint on hand, I think it works a little bit better than the acrylic paint. It just has better coverage. So once you have these guys painted, then you need to do your decorations and your design. So the white one, you guessed it, is a snowman. If you've seen my mega video or any of my Christmas DIYs from last year, I love snowman stuff. So I'm just drawing 3 buttons. If you want to be really, really precise and perfect, you could use something like a stencil to make the little buttons. I kind of wanted them to look like they were coal, so that they, like, instead of buttons, but they were like coal, so they were kind of like choppy. But like I said, if you want to make them perfect, by all means use a stencil or something like that. And then this guy is done. He just needs his little ribbon. This guy's going to be Santa, so I'm going to be drawing on his belt. Again, if you want, you can use a stencil or you can freehand it. I chose to freehand it. So I'm just drawing the belt in black, and then I will be going over it in some gold. For the flowers, I wanted to show you that you could use fall or summer flowers for this in case your Dollar Tree runs out of them really fast or you just don't have any on hand. So these are the peonies that I use. They're wild peonies, and then these are dahlias. They're both from the gladiolas. They're both from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just using one stem of the gladiolas and one stem of the peonies, and here they are, and I just swapped. I put the red with the white and the white with the red, and I think they turned out really cute. They'll be perfect tray decor items. So here I wanted to show you what decorative glaze I was using, and then... No! Yep, I spilled the decorative glaze, so I decided to just continue on working so I could get some of the glaze off of my desk and put it on this chair, and then I had to clean it up. But yeah, that was quite entertaining. So once I cleaned everything up, I went ahead and I put these things together. So for the next part of this DIY, you're going to need these little socks. So again, these socks, the Christmas socks, I got at the Dollar Tree last year. Actually, I got them in January when they had, or like end of December when they had their big sale. So if you don't have them, you could just use red socks. And as you can see, I'm using a part of a red sock there too. And then one of these little balls, some rice, and some elastic bands. So what I'm doing here now, because I had used this sock for another DIY as well, so this was what was left over, I'm just going to hot glue it together so that it stays closed. And then I will fill it with rice. I'm not filling it too much because I want it fitting into the Adirondack chair, because I'm making a Christmas Santa gnome sitting in his chair. So I don't want it too full. So I fill it up and I test it out in the chair, and then I see how much more or less I need, and then I tie it with the elastic. And then once I get the size that I want, I go ahead and I add that sock to the top of the gnome, and I pull down a little bit of it to make the nose. I wanted the nose to be red because sometimes Santa is kind of flushed, so I wanted his nose to be red. And I tie that as well with an elastic. So then I added the beard. The beard is this fur that I had from last year. You can pick it up. They have blankets at Dollarama, which is our version of the Dollar Tree. It's a little bit more expensive, so probably like the Dollar General, but I have seen little fur ribbons at the Dollar Tree. It's just like a hit and miss. Sometimes they have them, sometimes they don't. So just any kind of fur will do, or even white material. You could use white felt if you can't find the fur for his beard. And that's all there is to this little guy, and he's going to sit in his chair and wait for all the kids to come and tell him their wishes.
Well, you guys made it to the very end. This was a long one, and I appreciate you for staying and watching till the end. I know they can get to be tiresome, but I figure if you want to binge watch, this is something you can do without having to change channels. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Merry Christmas and stay safe.